Hi, Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm David Martin. I'll have the story of Advent music videos created at Our Lady of the Hills Parish in Haydenville.
I'm Steve Kiltonic at Our Lady of the Elms College, where a new lecture series was dedicated in honor of a former professor and beloved diocesan priest.
And a world-renowned sculptor talks about how Scripture has influenced his very important works of art. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel on this second week of Advent. In the late 1990s, local musician Steve Calderon worked with Passionist brother Terrence Scanlon numerous times for Chalice of Salvation Masses and was interviewed on the program during that time when he published books on piano arrangements. Well, Calderon is now the organist at Our Lady of the Hills Parish in Haydenville and has teamed up with fellow parishioner Bob Labrie on a new music video project just in time for the Advent season. David Martin visited them at their parish on a recent evening and has the story.
Since Advent is the season of spreading joy and giving to others, Our Lady of the Hills Parish organist Steve Calderon and videographer Bob Labrie are offering the gift of music. They are producing a music video project which will be available on the parish's website to allow other musicians and those who may be homebound the opportunity to join in the celebration and joy.
I've been arranging Christmas songs for 40 years, and I've shied away from O Come, Emmanuel. But as the new organist here, I felt an idea that maybe we can incorporate that song into each Mass during the communion meditation before the end of the Mass.
Steve Calderon created 4 variations of the song, stylized from the 16th, 19th, 20th, and 21st centuries. Calderon will play his 4 versions of O Come, Emmanuel, one each week after communion during the 4 weeks of Advent.
This is the first variation for the first week of Advent, and it's the 16th century chant style. The second variation is in the 19th century harmony style. We're using bells in the swell of the organ, and the melody is in the left hand in the grate.
The third week variation is in 20th century fashion, while the fourth week is reminiscent of the band Pentatonic's 21st century version.
Their version has a chord that I had not heard before, so I wanted to credit them for being that creative.
Because Advent is the time when worshipers are kept in suspense and anticipation for the coming of the Messiah, Calderon explained music from Advent follows the same trend.
Normally a hymn would sound like this. But with suspensions, you'd have this. And one of the common styles in the 18th century is the Picardy third. So instead of the somber sound at the end, they raise the third to become this. So for the 3 weeks of Advent, we stay in the minor key, and the 4th week, we use the Picardy third to help show a hopeful, uplifting sound, because Christmas is almost here by the 4th week of Advent.
Calderone began to collaborate with fellow parishioner Labrie to invent 4 short minute-and-a-half music videos, including scenes recorded in the parish and prayer text on the screen, all combined into one 6-minute video. This is the second music video at the parish that Labrie has worked on with Calderone, and said their pastor, Father Richard Bondi, has been exceptionally helpful.
We have always found that Father Bondi has been very supportive of the ideas that Steve and I have come up with for these videos. Knowing that we have his support just allows us, or actually it challenges us to make sure that the final product is a good one and something that he would be proud of.
Labrie and Calderone typically find a night that they can both work on their video undertaking. Labrie said with the advances in technology and experience, putting together music videos is fairly simple. The editing takes the most time, but Labrie feels that doing something he enjoys makes the time go by faster. He tries to compose shots that are interesting to viewers, something they might not see in everyday life. The videos highlight distinctive features of the church, such as the stained glass windows.
Depending on what time of day you come by, you either see them lit up or see them dark, but either way you know that they're there and how special they are to all the parishioners that are here. So we try to incorporate that in the video by showing what the stained glass looks like from the outside, and then bringing the viewer to the inside.
Labrie was interested in creating a music video that takes place in a church location as a way to preserve history for future parishioners.
It's a beautiful church with the arches and the stained glass of Mary over the crucifix and the altar. Those are all features of this church that make it really special, because it's got a big church feel in a very small place, which makes it very unique.
Calderone said the parish website will have a link to download the PDF file, which has the 4 versions of O Come, Emmanuel for musicians to use. It will also be on the parish Facebook page, and under the YouTube video site there will be links as well to download the score for use in other parishes. For Reel to Reel, I'm David Martin.
Calderone says that when working on Chalice of Salvation, he liked the concept of providing a Mass on TV to those who can't get out to attend church. He says his prayer meditations will also fill that need during Advent. Well, last spring, Elms College in Chicopee dedicated a new lecture series to a beloved and respected diocesan priest. Steve Kiltonick has more now on the inaugural speaker, a native of Springfield who was nationally recognized for her research on the Catholic Church in America.
On April 24th, before a packed Veritas Auditorium audience at the College of Our Lady of the Elms, Sister Mary Johnson, a sister of Notre Dame du Namur, gave the inaugural talk the Father Hugh Crean Distinguished Lecture Series. Father Crean, who passed away in 2015, was a respected pastor, theologian, and a professor of religious studies at the Elms. On display outside the hall were Father Crean's memorabilia from his 6-year tenure at the Elms. Friends, supporters, and philanthropists of the college wanted to honor Father Crean's memory and his contributions to the diocese, the greater Western Massachusetts community, as well as the Elms.
At the same time, the college wanted to also share with the diocese our effort to honor the Catholic intellectual tradition, what we do on a day-to-day basis here. Those two ideas came together perfectly.
Each spring, a national leader in theology, ethics, or philosophy will lecture on the Catholic intellectual tradition and a topic of interest to the Church and Father Crean. Crean's cousin, Jack Dill, led the philanthropic effort to establish the series.
His time here was indeed very important to him, allowing him to exercise his considerable intellectual and theological self, as he gave so much of his energy, care, and human kindness to his role as a simple priest, which was truly his only ambition.
Sister Mary Johnson is perfect because not only did she know Father Hugh Crane, not only did she grow up around here, but she knows topics, and the topic that she chose today is one that was close to Father Hugh Crane's heart, the role of women in the church.
Sister Johnson was born in Springfield and raised at Sacred Heart Parish. She attended Sacred Heart Grammar School and Notre Dame High School and was taught by the Sisters of Notre Dame. She was in the 7th grade when Father Crean became co-pastor of Sacred Heart with Father George Farland. Sister Johnson received a BA in sociology from Emmanuel College before entering the Sisters of Notre Dame congregation in Boston. After teaching high school, she attended UMass Amherst for her master's and PhD in sociology. She taught for 19 years at Emmanuel and now is a distinguished professor of sociology and religious studies at Trinity Washington University. As a young girl, Sister Johnson was influenced by Father Crean.
He was not ideological, he was dialogical. So he wasn't trapped in one way to look at reality, or he wasn't afraid of reality. He was open, he was honest, he searched for the truth, he dialogued with all kinds of people and all kinds of ideas, and so he really was a man of his time.
The topic she chose for the lecture was Catholic Women in the United States, Values and Vision.
Father Crean had many values out of which he lived, and one of them was a commitment to women in ministry. He really appreciated the gifts and talents of women, and he expressed that on numerous occasions.
Before her talk, Sister Johnson spoke on the major points of her discussion, in particular, the changing role of women in the Catholic Church. At recent gatherings of young lay people, bishops, and cardinals, she witnessed a consensus that includes assigning women more roles in the decision-making processes of the Church, from the local parishes up to the Vatican.
We know from surveys that women do a lot of the tasks of parish and diocesan work. They build up the Church in so many ways. They pass on the faith in family life in so many ways, but they're not involved in the decisions that animate and guide the Church.
Sister Johnson said at the parish level, women are already serving in leadership roles. She referred to statistics that show of the 32,000 lay pastoral ministers in the U.S., 80% are women. Because fewer priests are being ordained, more lay women and women religious are today leading priestless parishes, a conscious decision dioceses are making in an effort not to close parishes.
Most of the priests who've been interviewed in studies are delighted with the leadership of the women. Some of them are outstanding administrators. They free up the priests to do the sacramental work. So we will see more and more what we're calling 517.2 parishes. That's the code in the Code of Canon Law that allows for the leadership of women and laymen and deacons to lead priestless parishes.
In an Extension magazine cover story, the transformative role of women in building the Church was celebrated, citing the feminine genius, the idea that women possess unique and powerful abilities to teach about the faith, to lead, and to transform our Church. Featured were women across the country in various occupations who are taking on new leadership roles, including those in diocesan management as chief financial officers and school superintendents. In 1995, Pope John Paul II said the life of the Church in the third millennium will prominently feature the feminine genius.
Pope Francis commissioned an international group to study the restoration of the female diaconate. They spent 2 years looking at the evidence and then writing a report. That report is now on his desk.
Sister Johnson referenced a study that shows U.S. Catholic women hope the diaconate will be open to women, which would allow them to preach and administer some sacraments.
These are the talks now. This is the new place where we are. Many, many people beginning to look at the structures of decision-making in the Church, issues of governance and authority in the Church, issues of new roles and models for the laity in decision-making, particularly women, and models of service.
Sister Johnson has co-authored 3 books, one on young adult Catholics and the other 2 on diversity and the migration of Catholic sisters.
Many Catholics are looking for solutions. They want transformation, they want renewal, they want a revitalization of the Church, they want a reform. Going back to Father Crean's wonderful example, there's nothing to fear about facing reality. There's nothing to fear about searching for the truth. We believe in God, it's God's Church. Wonderful things have the potential to happen if we don't fear.
Sister Johnson also responded to prepared questions from the audience.
Another question, when will all this happen? Ask the Holy Spirit. I don't know. I can't.
In addition, Sister Johnson received a glass plaque from President Dumais as a token of the college's appreciation for her lecture. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
Since it began 30 years ago, the Retirement Fund for Religious has distributed more than $834 million to assist with direct care of religious seniors. This annual collection will be taken up in all parishes in the Diocese of Springfield this weekend. And joining me now to talk more about the needs of retired religious is Sister of St. Joseph, Maxine Schneider. Thanks so much for being with us today, Sister.
Thanks for having me, Sharon.
As I said, it was back in 1989 that this collection was started up as the Catholic Church realized that across the United States, hundreds of religious communities lacked financial resources sufficient to meet the retirement and healthcare needs of aging members. Tell us about this need, as historically men and women religious really worked for very little pay.
That's true, Sharon. We received relatively little by way of cash for stipends. And what we received was used primarily for the care of our members, the immediate care, of course, and also was invested in the training of our religious so that we would be fully competent in the ministries that we undertook. As time went on, though, society changed, the church changed, fewer people were entering religious life. That meant there were fewer younger members of congregations to support those in retirement. And so in time, the lack of funds to care for those who were retired really grew to an acute level.
And how important is funding from this collection to your order and others in the Diocese of Springfield?
The funding is truly important, and in a few ways. First, the funds collected in the annual collection are used for direct care of members. Those monies are dispersed among the religious congregations needing help with the immediate care of their members. But in addition, some of the money is set aside in order to help religious congregations to solve the root problems that are associated with the lack of sufficient funding. For example, providing elder care, dealing with facilities that are now too large for the membership and very costly, and dealing with simply the lack of income, the financial issues as well. So some consultants are often engaged by religious congregations to help solve those deeper issues regarding the funding.
Also, you assist the campaign on a national level. Tell us about that.
I do. One of the things that the National Religious Retirement Office does is provide tremendous support for the congregations receiving the funding to deal with the root causes of their shortfalls in monies. And among the supports is this whole group of about 60 of us volunteer consultants who go out and share our expertise or experience with congregations that are entering the process of planning and then implementation to solve the root problems. What it's done is given me a second vantage point to see the utter care with which the funds are used from this collection. I've seen it as a member of a congregation that has benefited from the funds, and now I'm seeing it from the vantage point of a volunteer consultant. This truly is money used very carefully for the purpose intended, and for which we thank the people of the country and, of course, the people of the Springfield Diocese.
All right, Sister Maxine, thank you so much for joining us today. And on behalf of the Diocese of Springfield, we really want to thank you for your ministry.
You are very welcome.
And for more information on the Retirement Fund for Religious, we have a link at iobserve.org. Still to come on Real to Real, from homeless Jesus to refugees and immigrants, world-renowned sculptor Timothy Schmalz has devoted his life's work to visually translating the Bible. This story and more still to come on Reel to Reel.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Scanlon, inviting you to take time out of your busy day and join us Sunday morning. We welcome Father Dennis Kavir as our Mass presider and celebrate the second Sunday of Advent. The Chalice of Salvation, Sunday mornings at 10 on 22 News, and coming up next on Fox 23 WXXA.
Hi, Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
He describes his work as visual prayers. Canadian sculptor Timothy Schmalz has been creating large-scale pieces of art for 3 decades now, many of these based on a spiritual theme, with several located in important places around the world, including St. Peter's Square. I had the chance to speak with him during a recent visit to our diocese. Timothy Schmalz has had a passion for sculpting since he was a teenager growing up west of Toronto, taking raw clay and forming it into something meaningful. He spoke at the monthly meeting of the Springfield Diocesan chapter of Legatus recently, telling members how important it is to him to devote his craft to glorifying God. Spending 10 to 12 hours a day in his studio, in 3 decades, he has not run out of subject matter.
There's so much in the Gospels that basically is yet to be sculpted, yet to be visually translated.
Most of his 3-dimensional works are cast in bronze, copies placed all over the world, such as Homeless Jesus, depicting Jesus as a homeless person sleeping on a park bench. His face and hands are obscured, hidden under a blanket, but crucifixion wounds on his feet reveal his identity.
I don't necessarily want to have it too clean looking, because Jesus here is represented as a homeless person, and so he's definitely not in a perfect blanket either.
Schmalz says that the secret to doing amazing artwork is having an amazing subject matter.
I was minding my own business downtown Toronto, one of the busiest cities in Canada, and I saw a homeless person. A person that was totally covered with a blanket, or I think it was a sleeping bag, and I just had this emotional impact. I just was almost slapped in the face by that vision, and I felt deep in my heart that I just saw something spiritual. That was Jesus I saw. I felt that.
His works vary in intensity with a balance between the thought-provoking and the beautiful. Several years ago, Schmaltz created this sculpture of the Holy Family that graces the sanctuary of St. Michael's Cathedral in Springfield.
The sculpture that I created here years ago kind of is just a celebration of love, but every single line of the sculpture, the whole design of it is meant to be a piece that's very harmonious.
Visual translations, visual artwork is a very powerful teaching tool, Schmaltz says. The Catholic Church has been doing this for centuries, using images like stained glass windows to teach people.
At that time, in our history, very few people were literate, and so they needed pictures to teach. But today I feel that people are, again, illiterate, not because they don't know how to read or write, but just they don't have time. So if I can actually show in a kind of a visual bite a gospel message that people can take with them, that's kind of a job well done for me.
In late September, Pope Francis unveiled Schmaltz's Angels Unawares in St. Peter's Square. This life-size sculpture in bronze and clay depicts a group of immigrants and refugees from different cultural and racial backgrounds and from diverse historic periods in time. Schmaltz was asked by the Vatican to create the sculpture. He says he envisioned a large raft or a boat and filled it with 140 different people from all historical time periods. The inspiration behind the work is taken from a biblical passage, Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares.
In the center of that boat is an angel, but you can only see the wings. So the wings all of a sudden kind of represent the spirituality of them all.
The presence of the sculpture in St. Peter's Square commemorates the 105th World Day of Migrants and Refugees.
What I'm doing is exactly what Pope Francis wants, doing something to create awareness. With a 20-foot bronze sculpture going in city centers, you're going to get people's attention.
And Schmaltz is currently working on another Vatican request to design a sculpture to bring awareness to the plight of human trafficking entitled, Let the Oppressed Go Free.
So what I have is a sculpture of St. Paquita opening up the ground by a sewer grate and letting hundreds of victims of human trafficking free. It's just one of the most chilling sculptures. 20 feet, there's more than 100 life-size people that are escaping this modern-day slavery, coming out of the ground.
And this weekend, Schmaltz is carving a nativity sculpture live in the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. As he is working, he will interact with guests describing his process and how the biblical texts shape his work. For more information on this and all of Schmaltz's work, we have a link at iobserve.org. And if you are looking for a fun event for the whole family, Sunday afternoon, Mount Carmel Church in Springfield is holding a Christmas Carol Festival. All are invited to this free event to sing Christmas carols, learn a bit about their history, while remembering the Christmas message of Jesus' birth, all while enjoying homemade Christmas treats. Sounds like a lot of fun. The festival will be held from 2 to 4 p.m. December 8th at Mount Carmel Church, 123 William Street in Springfield. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Thanks so much for watching today. Remember, for updates anytime, you can find information and news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world, on our news and information site, iobserve.org. We also are on Facebook, updating daily while our reporters work on stories for Reel to Reel, so check us out and friend us at Catholic Communications. We will see you next week for another edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.